Hello everyone, my name is Matthew Gill. You can call me MG. I'm the instructor for Computer Science 315, and we will be going through the course expectations as well as the introduction to the course Introduction to Computer Science Systems Administration. So, before we get into that, a little bit of background information about me. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree from Southeastern in '09 and 2011. I originally got a degree in effectively development. It was the business concentration of the computer science degree. And then I came back with ISAT with a focus on um, machine learning and a few other things. I served in the military from 2005 to 2013 as a tactical data network operator in the United States Marine Corps. It's sort of just like the version of a military geek who gets to play with radios and a lot of networking and systems administration hardware. In truth, it was the sysadmin for the military, for the Marine Corps, before they outsourced it completely. And it was a really nice defining piece of my career to kind of help me decide later on, whenever I was starting to get jobs, what I wanted to do. Regarding jobs, I started out actually doing pest control for a year between training and college. And then whenever I jumped into college, I became the CMPS majors lab manager for a while. I also joined KSLU, the radio station, as an engineer and a radio personality. I hosted the Experience Points radio show at exppoints.com for almost a decade. So that was really fun. I enjoyed that greatly. And then in 2010, I was a research assistant underneath Dr. Aaron Collado. We started doing things with Twitter and inferring data based off of models and things like that. I was a senior .NET developer at JBMT, a New Orleans-based development firm, and I did that for about a year. And then I got my long-term gig at Southeastern as a systems administrator, and I put a little asterisk next to that because I did more than just systems administration. I became a director of the solutions team, so I had my own team, I had my own people working for me or working with me. I became a security administrator. I helped usher in the early days of transitioning from LeoNet to Workday, our ERP solution. I helped with that and was kind of at the big table for a lot of those things. A lot of the systems that you may use at Southeastern, I helped with or outright created or ushered in. And it's more than just being sort of this cog in the machine. I was a slightly bigger cog in the machine, making some bigger decisions in tandem with a lot of the other Office of Technology leadership and leadership for the campus community. I left in 2019 to pursue a career in healthcare with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana as a senior converged infrastructure engineer, and I'm continuing to do that today. And I've been teaching since 2012 as well. So a year after I came to Southeastern, I began teaching 161, 294. I believe I've taught some 400 level, 495 classes, 415 classes, but my steady gig has been 315. I really like it, and I think hopefully you will too. So expectations about this course. Because this is an online course, there is no physical attendance required for Computer Science 315. In fact, there's no way to physically attend any of these courses because we don't have any physical lectures. Class lectures are going to be exposed on Wednesdays via Moodle, but there's no synchronous time period where you will just like tune in. In the past, I have done YouTube Live or Google Hangouts with my students, but that was when there was sort of this hybrid situation going on where there was an expectation of you being in class or being at the lectures. There is no expectation for that this time. And while I will expose certain or make certain material available to you, that will have a special tab in Moodle, or there will be an announcement in Moodle. You will have some notification, and you will not have any requirement to be there on that day to consume that material. It will always be available to you past a certain date, up until the final exam. I will also be delivering previous videos that I have created. Some of these videos, especially last semester's videos, or previous semester videos rather, whenever I was doing synchronous periods, um, there's some nuance to those lectures. There were some questions to those lectures, and while I plan on doing Q&A in this class via, you send me an email and I address that in a video kind of the following week, you may be able to watch some of these older videos that are still relevant, everything except the dates of the assignments, and any date information or any assignment information isn't relevant anymore in those assignments or those videos. But those videos do have some merit and do have a place, so those will be posted as well. Regarding assignments, they will be completely digital. They will be the requirements will be detailed and specific on Moodle, so you will know exactly what is required of you for deliverables for turn-in, and when, and sort of this workflow of how things are going to go. And then there will be a discussion either prior to the item is posted or when the item is posted or shortly thereafter. I think there's only one assignment that posts early that you could access, and then there will be a video Wednesday following that post to discuss what's going on. And I may even in prior to that video posting, I may even post something like an attendance or an announcement in Moodle to to showcase what's going on there. Exams will be completely digital via Moodle. We'll be using the Respondus browser, and I haven't really determined if I'm going to require a proctored camera or not. I'm leaning towards no, but just be on the lookout. That might be a requirement to have a proctored camera. And that's all handled through Respondus. If you don't know what Respondus is, there will be a link somewhere in Moodle for you to find it. But chances are, in a 300 level course, you've used Respondus on Moodle already. Exams will be conducted on Mondays, but there is no start time that will be enforced. So you can start the exam anytime Monday. All you have to do is complete it within the allocated time limit per exam. So if an exam is 30 minutes long, then you can start it at any time during Monday as long as you complete that exam within 30 minutes. And finally, online courses can be awesome because they offer you a ton of freedom. I remember whenever I was in college, we started getting online courses, and it was great because I got to manage my own time. And if you are very diligent in your academic studies, then this can work really well for you. But that freedom comes at a cost sometimes if you don't have a lot of discipline. If you are prone to procrastinating, if you're prone to waiting to the last minute, if you're prone to, looking at something and judging its difficulty, just kind of judging a book by its cover, you need to be a little more diligent, a little more disciplined in this course, because usually and typically what happens is, what I see is, there are a lot of students who have never touched Linux, or they have and they think that they really know what they're doing. And this course is an introduction course, but there are some complicated topics in this course, and I try to ease you into them, but at some point we have to kind of like stop pumping the brakes and jump right into what we're doing. There will be resources for you for that, and there's always the internet for you to search for, but don't just say, oh, exam 1 and exam 2 and exam 3 and exam 4 are either linear difficulty or the same difficulty curve. It's not the same way. Some exams are going to be harder, some assignments are going to be harder than previous exams or assignments. So be diligent, be disciplined, and always ask questions. Here's my email. Do not hesitate to send me an email because it's really important that you get the most out of this course. mg@southeastern.edu. It's really easy. I think mg@selu.edu will work as well if you want to shorten it even more. Don't hesitate to send me an email. It's really important. That being said, let's jump into the introduction for the course. So, systems administration overview with me, MG, as your instructor. So, some of you may be asking, what does sysadmins do? I thought from this Lisa 2014 video, I am sysadmin and so can you, which I would recommend searching for that and watching it. I need to rewatch it because I don't know if it holds up as well as it does when I watched it the first time. But they have these two quotes. It goes, build and maintain systems to facilitate the needs of a group of users, directly or indirectly. And you support the users of the system to efficiently accomplish tasks. Cut and dried, that is what a sysadmin does. We build and maintain systems to make sure that a group of users' needs are met. We make sure that they are able to do their job because we do our job effectively. So what this does is sysadmins don't necessarily drive a business. The business drives the requirements for the sysadmins, and that makes sense. In healthcare, we as systems administrators, we don't come up with how we're going to do something in a vacuum. We have a need. We have a need from sort of a functional person, someone in the business that needs something done, and through a system that we cultivate, build, and maintain, those needs are met. In the university setting, the Office of Technology or any of the systems administrators on campus, they don't just come up with things kind of for fun exclusively. There are needs of the university that require systems to be built, maintained, and if made performant. So, and then support the users of the system to efficiently accomplish tasks. It's sort of self-explanatory, but we are there for the users. We are there to make sure that everything they need is taken care of within the realm of systems administration. So when we talk about systems administration, let's break that down. What is a system? And really, a system can be anything. It's gotten way more complicated in the recent past. It could be almost anything. It can be a computer, a network, it could be hardware or software, and that includes operating systems, any services that supply data like websites or databases, and I keep saying it, really anything. Anything that can live on a computer or an embedded system is a system. And usually you've got, these individual sort of realms. You'll have a hardware engineer or a network engineer or a desktop support technician or something. You'll have a website administrator or a database administrator. You'll have these individual sort of experts, siloed experts or whatever. Well, hopefully not siloed, but you'll have these experts in their own field. Instead of just a jack of all trades, though sometimes you'll have a jack of all trades, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. We talked about systems. Let's talk about administration. So that's the act of maintaining systems. It's administering a system, and that is configuring, building, tweaking, tuning a system to achieve a variety, if not all, of these things. Uptime, which is maintaining online operation of a system, whether that's a computer system or a service or a website or something. It's how often is this thing down? And usually the best answer is it's absolutely never down. Performance is okay, it's online and it's accessible, but how good is it? How fast, how efficient is this process? Because it could be online all the time, but if it's slow as can be, then it's not very useful for me, potentially. Reliability, this is if, statistically, whenever I roll the dice and say, I want to go ahead and go to this place, I want to check this system out, I want to load this thing up, what's the chances it's actually going to give me what I want? Is it going to go down? Is it very easily disrupted by, a power surge or a power blink or a network outage or whatever? Like how resilient is it to external factors? Security. Is it secure? Can I easily break in and take data from this? Is this something that I have to watch like a hawk? Is this something that I can put something, a firewall or something in front of? Is there something I can configure on the machine or in the service to make it more secure? Maintenance. Is it easy to maintain? Can I justify the maintenance on it? Is it costly or cheap to maintain? And then finally, support. Who do I call when there's a problem? Am I the problem solver? Am I the support guy? Is there a paid for support subscription? And then also like what does that look like? What kind of support is there? And if you're the support, you may have to define all of that yourself. So we talked about systems, we talked about administration. Now let's talk about who is a sysadmin. And I kind of alluded to this earlier by saying they're these siloed experts, potentially siloed experts. And I have a saying, metal to mono. Back when mono development was new, this made a lot more sense. But sometimes sysadmins frequently are multi-purpose individuals. They're multi-purpose Swiss Army knife types of engineers or admins. And it can be it could be a variety of things. Metal being the data center, we rack and stack, we connect the systems into the network and power grid, and configure them and get them started. All the way up to mono, which is effectively we are the developer role, and we are trying our best to code our way out of a situation. And you can be the entire stack. So you could be, and these are in no specific order, but you can be an architect, which is sort of a high level. How are we going to solve a problem? How are we going to build a solution to solve a problem? A designer, we're going to get a little closer to actually doing the work in lieu with that architectural diagram or plan. The engineer, we're actually going to build the system, make build the loadout for the server or the service, and then implement it. The developer, we're going to code and configure and patch and tweak and tune to make sure everything is good. QA, we're going to test and verify and validate that what we need to happen is happening, and what we say is happening is happening. And then support. Whenever something breaks or whenever someone has an issue, we are going to help them get through it because that is our job. Sometimes you are all of those things. What are some of the qualities of a systems administrator? All of these, ideally, though typically you won't find someone that has all of these things. You can be, thorough, a good problem solver, but you're not quick. You're not efficient with it. You're good, you're decisive, but it takes a while. You can find people that are, not forward thinking and self improving, but are consistently quick and efficient problem solvers in their own regard. You can find people that are all of these things and yet they can't communicate. So what I usually say to people is that try your best to hit all of these, but understand that this is the goal. This isn't necessarily the reality of how it works. I still struggle at, sometimes I am most of these, and then other times I flip flop and I'm the other side. I'm the things that I wasn't earlier. We talk about responsibilities of a systems administrator. These vary, and we're going to go through a couple big points about this. But we have policies. Policies are effectively rule sets or documents or technical policies that enforce certain rules on a system. Whether it's a document that says you can do this way and this is the policy for it, or it's a technical policy that technically constrains you into being enforced into a policy. So a systems administrator may be tasked with creating, enforcing, or revising a policy based on the climate, the environment that they are working in, their hardware, their software, their security posture of their environment. As far as hardware and software, we're talking about the hardware would be whether it's environmental systems, power systems, computer systems, servers, desktops, maybe security like cameras, physical security like cameras or water sensors, maybe logical security like firewalls or intrusion prevention systems. And then software, we have different types of server software, whether it's a web server software, database server software, or anything in between. A sysadmin might be required to install, configure, maintain, integrate, tune, and log things. So we understand what install, configure, maintain is. Integrate means that you are effectively building this system, and then you are finding a way to puzzle piece it into your existing environment. And that might be you compromise a little bit on the system that you are building, the fresh one, or that means that you kind of tweak and change a little bit on the systems that are surrounding it, their adjacent systems that it will connect to, so that it can better integrate into the overall holistic environment. Tune is we adjust certain settings to make the entire system more performant, make it better at what it's doing. And then log is if there are errors or if there are any types of events, we want to make sure that should something negative happen with this hardware or software system, we want to log out there so that we can read it and we can look at, okay, this is what was happening when the system went down. This is a pattern that we can see. And let's go ahead and make sure that it doesn't happen again. And you learn a little bit from logs, right? Every time you read a log, if it's a relevant log, if it makes sense, you can very easily go, okay, there was an attack, there was a security attack, there was a somebody tried to penetrate our defenses, our firewall, and here's how we're going to change this, and here's how we're going to do this in the future. If you don't have logs, you're left guessing, and that's a problem. Backups are huge, especially the larger the industry, because the small industries out there, a little mom and pop startup, you'll be able to back everything up on a one hard drive or two hard drives and keep them in your car, keep them in your house, whatever, USB drives, things like that. But for multi terabytes or even petabytes of data that you need to back up, you need to have an enterprise class solution, whether that's a homegrown solution that can scale and is big using something like rsync. I believe rsnapshot or backup PC uses that, or if it's a paid for thing, whether through Veeam or Rubrik or any of these other sort of enterprise level things, backups are incredibly important. And frequently you'll see that whether a sysadmin has a backup role that they fulfill, or they're just the backup admin and that's their entire job. It's their job to install, configure, revise, and maintain their backup systems. Moving on, updates are huge, especially in 2020 and 2021. We started seeing a ramp up in Windows is doing Microsoft is doing 3 or 4 big updates a year, big roll up updates, and with a lot of cybersecurity happenings, updates are critical. You need to stay up to date, and then sometimes updates are actually the thing that's going to get you. If everybody remembers the SolarWinds hack, so you may have an update admin that manages the update system and then is in charge of installing or approving and denying what updates get installed. And that is, I would say, not a full-time job, but then again, there are a lot of systems out there like WSUS, or I can't remember the Linux one, but there's some automation out there that helps you with this. But you still have to make qualified decisions of whether you approve or deny an update. Regarding storage systems, these can be network attached storage. These could be disk drawers. These could be storage area networks. Enterprise, they range from being storage on a machine all the way up to storage in the cloud. So a storage admin would be in charge of installing, configuring, maintaining, and then integrating that storage into their existing environment. So delivering that storage to whatever systems need it. This could be a virtualized system, which we're going to see later in this course, not in this presentation, but later in this course. That's something that we deal with frequently. File systems. This is a little more implicit into just sort of general systems administration responsibilities. I don't think you really ever have a file systems administrator anymore. That seems kind of antiquated. File systems are how we organize things on how we organize data on storage. So without appropriate file systems, you can suffer great physical data loss or physical data performance loss. And typically, if you're in charge of doing that, you configure and you maintain file systems, and you just have to know enough about file systems to make good decisions early on, because it's tough to change the file system later if you already have data in place. And then these are all sort of can be combined, I guess, into just security, but logging is when you configure and analyze a logging platform, whether that's Splunk or Elasticsearch or Logstash or something like that, without a good, maybe centralized or at least relatively centralized logging platform. If it's all on the machine and the machine goes kaput, then you don't have those logs. So that's a problem. So logging is incredibly important to determine what happened, sort of a whodunit, what system failed to make your downtime occur or your issue occur. Security is paramount. It is an important, even for small businesses, an incredibly important facet that oftentimes goes overlooked until there's an outage based around security. There's either an audit or a loss of data, or even worse, an exposure of data. A security administrator plans out security policies and works with every other member of the team to sort of determine what we can do and how we can do it. Usually in my experience, it's been this is for security's sake. I don't care, get it done. They are in charge of deploying that security, or at least getting other people to deploy parts of it. and then they have to maintain and update and just be very prescient of what what bad actors and what what's out there, what scams are floating around, what malware is floating around. Just be very diligent, have a lot of visibility and awareness over what's going on. And then identity management, which typically, when we look at identity management, we're looking at it like an Active Directory system or e-directory system or some type of directory that has users and groups and computer objects and printers and importantly, policies around what those users and groups have access to. So whenever you log into your email, there's a directory out there, there's identity management out there that is calling back and saying, hey, does this user and this password match? Really, does this user and the hash of this password match? Because we don't hold your passwords. In, whenever you are connecting to a computer on campus or maybe in a big business, you may or may not have access to certain shared resources. That shared resource grant, those permissions, may be maybe a function of identity management saying, yeah, you're in this group. This group only has access to XYZ, not ABC. So identity management is important, and a responsibility of an identity management administrator is to configure and sort of take requests from other departments and other parts of the business, to make sure that identity management works well. And then some less than desirable tasks, in my opinion, but incredibly important, documentation and training. Documentation is really good whenever you are in a big business with a lot of turnover or relatively a lot of turnover. Um, a documentation systems administrator or someone with that component in their repertoire is their goal is to create, maintain, and control access to certain types of documentation because documents are really important. Knowledge bases are great, but they may have compromising information should they get in the wrong hands. You don't want to do that, so you have to make sure you control access. You need also documents that make sense. You need documents that read well, documents that are professional or at least consistent. Markdown is a great way of doing this. That's like the wiki way of doing it. Good documents are great, but even if it's just all in a OneNote or something, you need to be able to share that information and control access and maintain that information. Make sure it's up to date because old documents are great if you're dealing with old systems, but if you're not, then you're kind of up a creek. And then training. A training admin is interested in keeping up to date, making sure that you train yourself, helping their coworkers train, and then also training the users, right, the non-admins, in whatever system is under their purview is relevant to them. So maybe that you are all of these things. You do all of this for a system that you are sort of in charge of. If you're the backup administrator, you may do security or work with security for your backup system. You may generate documentation and hold training seminars or webinars or lunch and learns for your backup system. So it's kind of all of these things combined depending on your situation. We'll talk about education requirements and a little bit of history to this. There used to be this apprentice role where you didn't have a degree, but you were skilled because in the 80s and 90s, if you were coming up with computers, chances are, you didn't have a degree at the time. And, you know, you didn't need one because computers were so new. The education at the time, the universities and the technical schools, they weren't qualified to teach anything yet. There was no way for them to do. There was nothing there for you to learn. This is not really the case anymore. Uh, long term at least. You might be able to get a small business or a startup or a mom and pop to hire you on if you can demonstrate that you are really good. It's typically in southern Louisiana, right? It's, oh yeah, Jim is my cousin's kid, and he's pretty good. He made his own MySpace or his own website, or he wrote an app because he Googled around. We can hire him to do our computers, and that's two things. One, yeah, I'm not saying Jim's bad at what his would-be job is, but he probably doesn't understand the finer moment. Anyone can Google an app. Anyone can Google together an app, especially today. And then two, those hiring Jim have no real concept of what they actually need. They just need someone to, air quotes, do computers. Typically, you're going to see less money, and there's not going to be so much of a ladder here. You want to get money, you want to get paid. You got to go to a larger business, a larger place. It's going to, unfortunately, also have a larger selection, right? So they're going to require at least a bachelor's degree, usually with some type of requirements, because if they can pay for it, then they know that they can just wait and get the right person for the job. But bachelor's degree has the largest selection initially because you're in college and you're not doing things. You're learning sort of these foundational building blocks of computer science and systems administration. You're initially less skilled when you get on the workforce unless you really are diligent and have a home lab and convert your laptop to Linux and buy a server from eBay and do all of these things. You got to really be into it. Chances are, if you're the person that's like jailbreaking your phone and jailbreaking your game consoles and like attending, webinars every chance you get, you might be a little bit better off in that case. And I would recommend, try to do that if you're interested. It's a long-term investment, but bachelor's degree is sort of now the entry level requirement for a lot of places. In some places, it's a requirement because of state rules and regulations, federal rules and regulations, sort of something that the business doesn't necessarily get to control. In other places, the business could totally waive the bachelor's degree requirement in lieu of, 8 years experience, 10 years experience, and some type of proof that you know what you're talking about. And then we have the master's degree, which is atypical and overqualified. It might be something that benefits you if you got an MBA or something once you're already established, but it's not going to help you unless you typically are unless you're applying for some type of managerial position that would make use of those degree components. But master's degree is kind of overqualified for an entry level systems administrator job. You can do a lot of things with a systems administration focused concentration or degree. You could work at a help desk, and again, these are in no specific order, though they look like they are. You can work at a help desk. Help desks are the frontline workers. They are the ones that are helping people figure out why their computer is or isn't doing something right. They're the ones that may take calls about email or bad mouse keyboard. They're the ones that have a lot of patience when dealing with the user, typically. But that depends on your help desk and that depends on your users. A database administrator, they manage their databases. They make sure that's performant. You sort of start pushing very extremely in one direction, and that's database. This goes the same for web administrators and things like that. Systems administrator, which is sort of multifaceted. You could be a systems administrator of an individual system, where it's just, this is my baby, this is what I do. Honestly, a database administrator is sort of a sysadmin of an ecosystem of databases and app servers maybe. But if it was just one database server, it would be like a sysadmin of an individual system. You may be a systems administrator of multiple systems where you go, this is my data center and I am the lord of everything in here. And then you may say, I'm a systems administrator of an ecosystem. I've got networking and email and databases and learning management systems and identity management systems and hybrid cloud, AWS, and this and that and the other thing. So it really just depends on what type of sysadmin you want to be, but you could be those types of sysadmins. If you're not super great at scripting and you're way more of a people person, you might be able to be a project manager. Something I've always said is I like working with a project manager that has some experience in what they are managing. It's not a requirement, but it does seem, at least in my humble opinion, that is a better opportunity. That's a better, a better situation whenever you can find it. And then CTO or CIO, Chief Technology Officers, this is your C-suite. This is something that usually you need, a master's degree or a lot of experience or a lot of elbow rubbing with people in the business. You need to climb that ladder so you can be at that C-suite, so you can affect change in the entire business relative to what the technology facets are of that. And you could, again, with a technical degree like a systems administrator degree, you can achieve any of these with some work. Admittedly, CTO is a little high up there, but you could do it. Let's talk about money. This is a couple years old. I believe this is a 2012 or 2014 graph. And back then, the median income for an entry-level systems administrator position was approximately 74,000 on one resource and about 72,000 on another resource. So let's just say 70-ish thousand. The range is 72, 74. And that was in 2014, I think. And you can see that this is a bell curve, so you can see that you're probably at least going to get 55,000, 55.8. If you don't, you are in the very small amount. Most people don't get 92; they get below 92. This has changed just a little bit, though. With level of experience, we see that entry level, the bare minimum here is 57. So if we go, I'm going to kind of shift back and forth between these slides. So 57 with 3 years of experience, that was what you could expect as the bare minimum. So that's a little bit higher than the lowest that I would say on the 10% scale over here, 55,000. Then after 4 to 9 years, you might be able to get 69,000. 10 to 14, minimum 79. 15 plus years, you shouldn't accept anything less than 89. This is from Netrix in 2020. There's a link down at the below right there. And then finally, the 10 states with the highest and the lowest annual sysadmin salaries. So unfortunately, Louisiana has the lowest annual salary for sysadmins. That being said, I don't know, and you can see the little arrow kind of over here. $60,000. So $60,540. And then on the higher end, we see, and that's in Kentucky. And then we see in, looks like Delaware, maybe 102. That is the typical salary for a sysadmin. This is a slightly misleading graph, right? Because the cost of living in Alabama and Louisiana are relatively low, and these states are relatively flyover country, give or take. I mean, it's very cold in North and South Dakota. When you look at like Virginia and Maryland and New York and California and Washington, the cost of living is very high. So it makes sense, and also in Hawaii, the cost of living is very high in those places. So it makes sense that the salary would be higher. But this $102,000 in Delaware might not get you as far as the $60,540 in Kentucky will get you, just because of how the cost of living breaks down. I encourage you to search and find more information on this if you're interested in, definitely before you decide to move. But if you're interested in money, I can say from personal experience, systems administrators can get paid quite a lot to do very pointed, specific things. So don't get too kind of upset over this graph just yet, or this diagram just yet. Before we leave, let's go ahead and address the syllabus real quick. This is the syllabus. We have the course description at the top, my email at the top, and we have the textbook. None. We will not have a textbook. It will be all online resources or digital resources. Minimum topics are approximate. We're going to definitely do everything in here. We may add DevOps or automation if we have time. This is a tentative class schedule. The approximate dates are on Moodle, so please check that out. And these are effectively how many classes. We'll have 14 classes. This is including the spring break. We'll have 4 exams and then the final exam. And there are 3 classes that may not happen, or 2 classes that may not happen. Once the assignment 4 posts, because it's a heavy assignment, these classes may just be free weeks where we're working on the assignment, or if I get enough, AMA questions, I might do a video about that. It just depends on if there's enough audience for it. Some learning objectives. I encourage you to all read these learning objectives, but I'm not going to read them to you. Grade computation. This is a rough estimate, but in past semesters, this is the same way I've graded all the time, and it's worked out really well. You're going to have a student introduction, which is already posted, and you should already have an announcement about it. It's 2% of your course total. Community discussion, already posted, and you should have an announcement about that as well. 10% of your course total, and then we have all of the assignments, which make up 53% of your course total. That's heavy. So, and also remember, look at assignment 4. It's 50% of this 53%. So don't Don't cheap out on these assignments. You need to do them. Exams are 35% of your course total, and the breakdown there. How to do well in this course. I'm not going to pretend that I know how you specifically are going to do well in this course. I know how I do well in courses, and that's by doing all the material and all the side quests and just doing everything. So I would recommend that you do that if you're like me. I have put some notes down. You can attend all the classes or watch all the videos and pay attention to all of the videos. Take good notes if you need to. It's not like you can't rewatch these videos pretty much at any point, except in the exam. You need to learn and understand the material. Do not memorize. So this is an important one. Learn and understand why something's happening, why we're doing something. Don't just mimic things. I don't need someone that can mimic. You don't need to be someone that can mimic. You need to be able to be someone that understands the material. You need to do all the assignments because they are heavy. Do your own work. Don't cheat. Someone told me one time, 3-hour class, you need 9 hours outside of class to get an A or a B. I don't think so, but if you need more time outside of class, take more time outside of class. And if you have a D or an F at the drop date and you do not want to dramatically change how you approach the class, you should consider dropping. That is because I believe these two exams, so 55% of the 35%, and at least this assignment, so 50% of the 53%, as well as this community discussion, are yet to be graded at the drop date. So you have an option if you just A+ everything after the drop date to pull your grade up by a letter grade or two. But understand that if you have a D or an F in this class, you've demonstrated that you are not committed to diligence and discipline that is required to do well in this class. It's not an impossible class. I've been doing this long enough to know that that's not true. So that's why I say dramatically change how you approach this class, because it shows a pattern of behavior that you're not committed to getting a better grade. And you should consider dropping if you don't want to continue to change things. Nothing personal, I understand. Life happens, things get in the way. But there's nothing magical about this class in terms of grades. And then as far as assignments, I said be sure to that all required elements are included in your submission. I work hard on those descriptions for the assignments. There's a description, a workflow, and a requirements section, and it's important that you read everything. I don't just put stuff on there for fun. Don't freelance in these assignments. Do exactly what I ask you to do, and you'll be fine. All assignments should be done independently. Students will receive no points for duplicated work. To be clear, all assignments that share work that is copied from internet resources, that means you Google and you change the variable names, or if there's something goofy in your thing that you don't know how to do, and I find very hard that you've just Googled around and clairvoyantly known how to do, I'm going to find that one line that you copied, and I'm going to find the internet resource, and I'm going to give you a 0, and then when you ask about it, I'm going to paste the URL that you used. Shared work from another assignment. Do not share from another student, or in any way, other way, unoriginal. Right? So you need to be writing the code. You need to be doing the work. You need to be submitting your assignments. You will receive 0 points. Assignments will be presented in class. Clearly, that is not the case this semester unless otherwise stated by the instructor. This is me otherwise stating that we will not be turning things in class. We will be turning them in via Moodle. And again, Moodle, submit your assignments on Moodle unless otherwise noted. So that's that. This is my email. If you have problems, if you have questions, mg@southeastern.edu. Do not hesitate to email me. It's very important that you email me whenever you have an issue. As soon as you have an issue, you need to communicate, because communication is key, especially in an online course. We need to make sure that we have good lines of communication. So until the next video, everyone, have a good day, enjoy, and I will see you in the next one.